almost maintenance-free gardening is like a cycle where it goes, you start over with the soil in a new bed and new plants over and over again.
Continuously.
Starting your bed, choosing the right companion plants, maintaining your bed for peak production, attracting pollinators, and renewing your bed for the next cycle.
To visualize that we have already gone through step 1, aerate your soil, step 2, which is feed your soil, that was worm castings and compost, and step 3, which is cover the soil. So you could have put hay, you could have put leaves, you could have put wood chips. So what we have here, everywhere you see grass, envision a covering on top of your garden. All right, Pawpaw. So basically where I'm at, you said this would be my walkway, correct?
Yeah.
So what does this string represent?
That's the middle of the row.
Okay, so in the middle of the row, what's going to go underneath here? What we put here?
It depends. Now, if you're going to put squash, you're going to need 3-foot rows instead of 2 because they get big.
So what would you plant in this garden?
Okra. Put your okra, your tomatoes. Personally, I would put okra and peas right beside it. The peas grow uphill.
Okra and peas.
So instead of cutting bean poles, use the okra.
So you would use companion planting.
That's right. In other words, I mean, if the soil and people, I don't care what you say, how you say, if the soil is not good, the plants are not going to grow. I've seen people say they got a green thumb. They don't have a green thumb. They know how to do the soil.
In South Louisiana, and all of his plants are going to continue to produce for him. He's got mixtures. Look at how he companion plants with cucumber. He's got his, I want to say one of these is like a thornless blackberry, the other's a raspberry. He's also got ginger planted. Come on, Stephen, let's show everybody. He's got some more raspberries over here. He's got peas. It looks like possibly another cucumber plant tucked into there. To convert over the worm castings, the manure, the compost, all of that over into plant soluble nutrients. Now, if you're working on property that has never been gardened or formed like this 1/4 acre that we have here, at least for the last 25 years, it has had nothing growing on it other than grass, okay? So if you're working on property like that, or property that has been heavily tilled and heavily covered in synthetic commercial fertilizers, fungicides, and pesticides, you're going to be very low on microbiology in that soil. And that's okay, because you'd be amazed at how fast you can change that trajectory. And one way to do it, guys, is to keep your soil covered, add worm castings, fish emulsion, lots and lots of compost. I'm not sure how people can actually garden without animal inputs. My biggest thing here at Storkey Farmstead this year is doing something called nutrient catch cycles. What I mean is, I have small livestock on our 2-acre farmstead. So what I'm doing, and I always have done, but now I'm really focusing in on it, is I am growing a lot of fruits and vegetables solely for our rabbits and our chickens. And so what I'm doing is I'm feeding them from the garden that they themselves are helping me to grow, okay? So I'm feeding them the food from the organic garden. Then they poop. So if you are what you eat, I want these guys to eat the best food possible with as high nutrient levels as I actually can get them at this point. So these guys are going to eat that amazingly nutrient rich food, right? They're going to eat it. They're going to poop. So obviously, you got it. Their poop is so full of nutrients. And I'm going to take that poop and I'm going to do several things with it. I'm going to be honest. Like, you might as well just call me the manure lady because I love poop. I'm going to take that poop. I'm going to layer it into my worm bins because my worms are what they eat. And if my worms eat nutrient-dense rabbit manure, then when they poop out their poop, called worm castings, they're going to be more nutrient dense than what you can buy anywhere else. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to use the rabbit manure in the worm bins, right, to make worm castings. I'm going to use the rabbit manure in the garden as a side dress, as a fertilizer. I'm going to turn the rabbit manure into basically poop tea, and I'm going to spray my plants down in the evening as a body warmer, right? It'll be a pest deterrent, it'll be a fertilizer, but it'll be a foliar spray. I'm also going to take that rabbit poop and I'm going to let my chickens convert it into a compost mixed with their poop. So now I've got this really high power, nutrient dense compost that again is going back into the garden. So I'm catching the nutrients because as I amend my soil and my fungi and bacteria levels get closer and closer to that 1-to-1 ratio, as those guys increase, they're now taking the nutrients that have always been in my soil and they're converting those nutrients into plant soluble nutrients. So now my plants are pulling nutrients from the soil that I need to be healthy, and they're growing themselves in the food that my customers, my animals are going to eat. Now, if all my fruits and vegetables leave my property, I'm going to lose some nutrients, right? Right. So some of those plants go back to feeding the animals. And then the animals poop. I grab that poop, do all my cool little things with the poop, put it back into the garden, and now I'm catching my nutrients and I'm recycling them, guys. I'm recycling them back into the soil, okay? Because when the worms eat the rabbit manure and poop out their castings, they're going to add, are you ready for this? They are going to add fungi, bacteria, and protozoa to the castings. They themselves are going to eat it. It's going to go through their digestive tract, and those little worms are going to poop out the bacteria and fungi that I need for my soil so my plants can uptake the nutrients that is already in my soil. So I'm doing all these really cool systems, but the whole point is to grow nutrient dense food. It doesn't do me any good to grow 500 pounds of tomatoes if you have to eat 5 tomatoes to equal the nutrients that my mom and dad would have gotten from a tomato 60 years ago. It doesn't do me any good. So that's what I'm talking about. Your soil is not depleted. It's not. Your soil has everything that it needs. The problem is you've been working against it. So you need to get your soil covered. You need to stop with the synthetic commercial fertilizers, pesticides, and fungicides. Is it gonna hurt? Maybe a little. It's gonna be like a visual slap in the face. You're gonna be like, oh my God, I listened to this lady on YouTube and my garden is a friggin' mess. But guys, I'm telling you, fixing to show you with proof how quickly you can amend that soil. But you have got to stay the course. You have got to make up your mind that you want highly nutrient food, okay? The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. So you can't be a fence sitter in this discussion. You have to be like, you know what? I really want my food to be nutritionally dense. I understand that most of my health problems and the behavior and health problems of my children are stemming from the food that we're eating. There is no nutrients in the food that you're feeding your family. That is why I run sick. That is why most people are depressed. That is why so many people have emotional, physical, psychological issues. I know I have a master's in special education, and 20 years ago, they knew this. When I was working on my master's degree, they knew how much food was affecting children, okay? But the powers that be only care about the money. And there's more money in pharmakeia than there is in them showing you how to healthily grow your food. So if you're worried about your kids' behavior, if you're worried about your health, if you're worried about even the meat that you eat, because it doesn't matter if you're herbivore, omnivore, or carnivore, this video applies to you. Because even if you wouldn't touch one of these vegetables, the vegetables I'm growing feed the meat that I eat. Because you are what you eat. So if you're getting your meats from a big box store and all they've ever been fed is Moncito, Modesto, I don't even know. I mean, like, I stay away from them people with like, you know, like they're a vampire. If they're just being fed cracked corn that has been modified genetically and is full of pesticides and herbicides, and you're getting cattle that have been injected with every antibiotic known to man to keep them on their feet until they butcher them, then that's what you're taking into your body. In all honesty, I'm being very serious. It's so much deeper than you guys realize. I don't just know teal because it's a niche or I think it's cool or it makes me stand out. I know teal because I was tired of being sick. I know teal because I understood deep in my heart that there had to be a way to grow food without buying all these inputs and literally destroying the skin of the earth. Like, there has to be a way to do it. The cool thing is along this journey, I'm actually learning that the nutrients that I've needed the entire time are in my soil. But because of the chemical fertilizers and the bare soil and the ways that we form, we've basically blocked ourselves from being able to access those nutrients. We have blocked our plants from being able to access those nutrients. Bad on us. Shame on us. We can change, guys. Just because Granddaddy and Papa did it like this with a tractor and a bunch of tillers does not mean that you have to stay that course. My parents are 80 and almost 82. They will probably, because they're extremely healthy, they're on no medications, they look amazing. If you guys have never seen Pawpaw, Sammy, and Allie Bugs' YouTube channel, check it out. My dad's 81 and he can outwork me. But he grew up sharecropping in rural Biloxi with incorporating animals and plants with no chemical add-ins, right? And I really believe that him and my mother still have their faculties, all of them, from mental to physical, all of it, because of the way that they were fed as children. Okay, talk about pollinators. The best way to bring in pollinators to your urban or rural gardens is to have something called pollinator beds speckled around your property. So if you're just getting into gardening or you're a master gardener, one thing that you need to know is that bees are not your only pollinators. So moths, butterflies, dragonflies, houseflies, parasitic wasps, bees, all of those are pollinators. So you want to encourage all different species of insects to come and visit your garden flowers. So why pollinators? Why even worry about pollinator gardens? Guys, over 35% of the world's food is created by these tiny pollinators. Without them, 35% of the world's food would be gone. Biodiversity, nutritional value, and native plants would decrease and finally go extinct.
What happens with the summertime blues?
Well, your plants are under heat stress, insect attack. It's especially on your squash and cucumbers, they get the yellow fungus, and they get weak. It weakens the plants. This will help that because the plant will be stronger, faster growing, and it can. If you keep checking your plants and moving the old dead leaves and big leaves and all that, that plant will last a whole lot longer.
All right, Pawpaw, what can people do in the summertime whenever it's hot and their plants are getting the summertime blues?
Well, you need to make sure they stay hydrated. You need to keep the slow release nitrogen on them, which is worm compost. When you keep the slow release nitrogen. It don't burn the plant, but it's there continuously. It's not like you go out there and pour nitrogen on them to fertilize, and what happens then is flushes them, gives them a big rush, and then it dies off. This will sit there and just keep on producing slow and steady. Your plants are healthy, the root system grows faster. It actually helps kill off the nematodes and the eggs and some pests. It's not an insecticide and it's not a fertilizer. The worm poop is not a fertilizer. It is a organism, living organism, and it don't build up salt like fertilizer in your garden. Okay. Here again. What is the temperature today? 95, 96?
97.
There's a heat advisory.
There's a heat advisory. Them plants look like they're wilting?
Nope.
They're not gonna wilt. And that bed is what, 3-4 months old? I'm just developing this soil. That soil over there is 4 years old. Look at it. You have to have the soil. And the only reason these plants are not wilted and they're producing on just a first year bed, I don't buy potting soil. I don't buy bedding soil. I make my own soil to go in my raised beds. This worm poop and the worms I got in there with this is keeping them plants healthy, and they should be wilted down in this temperature. Look at them. They're beautiful. They just coming on.
Look at these pretty tomatoes you got coming in.
I'm telling you. And I mean, look at them. That is the difference between this and just plain old gardening. Like our videos, subscribe and turn on the notifications, and we'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.